It is past the filing deadline at this point, but there has been a lot of talk this week about who will and who will not be on the ballot in the 27th Congressional District out in Western New York. The candidate who was collecting petitions to run on the Green Party line ended up declining. Then Governor Cuomo again talked up Lieutenant Governor and former Congresswoman Kathy Hochul as a candidate, even saying that National Democratic Party leaders wanted her to run against Republican Congressman Chris Collins. Hochul, though, says she's happy with her current job, and the local party's pick, Grand Island Supervisor Nate McMurray, says he is the best candidate and he has no intention of going anywhere. Mr. McMurray is joining me from Buffalo now to talk about the race. Thank you so much for being with me, sir. Good to see you again.
Thank you for having me.
So what's going on here, do you think, really?
Well, I think we are being caught up into politics that are not relevant to NY27, to Western New York. I think we are being pulled into something that the people here really aren't interested in being pulled into. And I think I have no intent on being part of that game. Well,
what would that be exactly? Can you be more specific?
Well, I can only speculate like everybody else because I'm not part of any backroom discussions. But it seems like they're trying to. There was a convention, and their decisions were made, and then after the convention, they are trying to strategize for another race, not this race. And because we have cleared the field here, I think they feel it's a chip that they can play, but we should not be used as a chip.
So, okay, I'm going to try and decode what you're saying a little bit. It sounds to me like what you're saying is that the concerns of the individuals who may or may not be trying to figure out if this is a better fit for Kathy Hochul than running for re-election as Lieutenant Governor with Andrew Cuomo believe that Andrew Cuomo should run with someone else. You think this is about the governor's race and not the congressional race. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yes, you articulated it better than me, but frankly, I think that's the case. And I think if Ms. Hochul, someone I respect deeply, was interested in this race, she would have expressed that interest to me personally. I also think that the governor, who I think has done a lot of important things, should have reached out to me personally. But he should also respect the fact that people in this district have been collecting signatures in the snow and the rain, and we've had multiple candidates nights, and we've cleared the field. And you know better than anybody, this is one of the rare races where we have a clear primary. I'm going to go right against Chris Collins or whoever comes out of his primary. In fact, he has a primary likely, and I don't. Well, so we shouldn't be. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, there's one other way to see it. I guess it would be a little bit of a Pollyanna way to see it, but it's no secret that Chris Collins and Andrew Cuomo don't like each other. They've been verbally abusive to one another in public for a while now over a variety of different issues, and in fact, Chris Collins was just on national TV chiding the governor for saying that he's undocumented, which is a big issue that you and I don't have to get into. So maybe the governor looks at this and says, wow, Mr. McMurray has cleared the field, but I think Kathy Hochul's stronger because she's got better name recognition, and she could actually beat Chris Collins. I mean, that's not positive for you necessarily, but it might not have to do with the governor's office. You don't believe that that's the case. You think he just wants her off the ticket.
I don't know. Like I said in the beginning, I'm speculating like you are. No one's keyed me into those conversations. But he doesn't know me. I mean, I've met the governor, but I don't have a relationship with the governor. Again, I said he did a lot of important things that I respect and I think are important. But he doesn't see what we see in towns like Batavia and Warsaw. He doesn't see the energy that we've collected. We wouldn't have cleared this field by accident. It happened because of a purpose. It happens because we're sincere, and we're sincere about our message. I know Ms. Hochul has run before as an incumbent here, and she does have high name recognition because of her association with the governor, but I'm not part of that system. I'm not part of the Albany system. I'm not part of the Washington, D.C. system, and maybe it's not valuable to them, but I think the fact that I'm an outsider and someone who's built a name for myself right here in Western New York is valuable.
So just to be clear, individuals called you, or maybe one in particular, former Assemblyman Sam Hoyt. Is that true? Did you speak to him? And did he cast himself as talking to you on behalf of the Cuomo administration?
I'm not going to talk about it, but I will say this. I received calls. I think that Sam's involvement has been greatly exaggerated. The calls were about various issues, including the Green Party issue and the fact that Chris Collins was trying to take that Green Party line. It was a long weekend.
Yeah.
But I do think that there was a lot of people trying to. The problem I had with all of it is, this is democracy, and democracy is supposed to be about one person, one vote, not people playing musical chairs or looking at politics like an org chart in a corporation. This is very different, and I thought some of the discussion was offensive.
Well, Did you get any calls from anyone in Washington? And I guess because what we're trying to clear up is where this actually came from. If it came from Albany, if it came from the executive mansion. Supposedly, according to the governor, Nancy Pelosi was interested in replacing you. Did Nancy Pelosi call you? Have you ever spoken to anybody from the DCCC at all?
I have spoken to people from the DCCC who've been generally supportive. But I do think there's people, I'll leave it at this. There was people in D.C., there's people in Albany, and those people obviously have a different view than the people of the Western New York. I find it troubling the night that I was getting endorsements from groups like grassroots groups, local groups, like Citizens Against Collins, and like the Ontario County Democrats. That same day, we had outsiders from Albany and outsiders from this region trying to make decisions for the people of Western New York. It was wrong, especially the day that it happened, it was wrong, and especially given the circumstances of the governor's own election.
Do you think it's possible that this strengthens your hand? I mean, certainly it's raised your profile, right? And everybody's talking about a race that heretofore I myself would have characterized this race as a long shot, and that's no offense to you, or even if it was Kathy Hochul. I mean, this is the most, if not one of the most Republican dominant districts in the state. It's drawn that way on purpose.
Well, there's no doubt this is a David and Goliath story. I mean, but you know, I've always been a bit of an underdog, and I think that in some ways, the people getting behind me since all the stories broke and the energy that we're feeling has been a good thing. And I think we're going to keep moving with that momentum. There's no doubt in my mind this is going to be a tough race, and it was from the beginning. But we didn't get into it because it's easy or because it should be a giveaway for someone. We got into it because we believe Chris Collins is a very bad candidate who has not represented the people of Western New York. And if we can see right now that things can change, and this is not a normal political age where political insiders or people with brand recognition always win. It's a different period. And I think Chris Collins, you can see his behavior towards me since the get-go. You know about this, Liz. From the get-go, he's been very aggressive towards me because he knows a guy like me can take him out.
I do want to ask, since I've got you here, you know, also since you and I last spoke, there's been a lot of changes at the federal level and developments in national politics, one of which is that you've got a number of Democrats who are talking about a movement to impeach the president. Do you think that that should occur?
I think the president has done a lot of things that none of us are proud of. I think we live in an era now where you can feel this tension. We feel like we're all drawn into this reality TV show, a bad reality TV show. And I think that people have to be held accountable for their actions. I do think impeachment, however, I have to be cautious about that because I don't want to nullify the vote of the people. He was fairly elected. However, if he's done something that deserves impeachment, I certainly will vote for it. And I'll say strongly, I understand why people voted for Donald Trump. I understand the energy he brought and the frustration that he brought, and a lot of people felt, and that he thought he would provide an answer to. But I also think most Americans today feel very disappointed and frustrated. And it's not about making America... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm just curious if you feel like you have to be circumspect in particular on this issue or on any issue that deals with the president because there's support from him in Western New York. I mean, certainly Chris Collins was the first House member to endorse him back in the day when few people actually believed he was the real deal, and then subsequently has been a frequent surrogate of his. But the reality is that there is quite a following in Western New York for the president.
Well, I don't look at polls. I don't look at, I don't put my finger up in the air and see which way the wind's blowing. If the president does something wrong, I will say it's wrong. And there's a lot of things he's doing that are hurting the farmers of Western New York, that are hurting the people of Western New York. And he can have all the bravado he wants. And it is fun. It is funny to a lot of people. Even to me, I sometimes say, well, that was interesting. But it's somebody we need to stand up to. And when he's doing things that are wrong, that hurts the people of Western New York, whether or not that makes me popular, I will say it's wrong. And it's part of the duty of a candidate.
Just before I let you go, you are now free and clear on the Democratic Party line. Do you have the Working Families Party line as well?
I have the Working Families Party line and the Democratic Party line.
Has
yes.
the Working Family Party schism troubled you?
Yeah, it has, because I think that's an important voice, and I don't want to see a schism in a group of people that provide an important voice. I hope they can work those issues out. But I mean, that's part of politics. You have schisms, you have strange weekends like we had in my campaign. But you keep pushing forward, and you keep pushing forward to that goal. And no matter what hits us, we're going to keep going at Chris Collins because this is an unethical guy who's part of a very dirty, dirty situation in Washington.
And no one will have the green line, is that correct?
Nope. I think that was a big shocker to us to see that the surrogates of Chris Collins went out and put on this guy who had these terrible things he was saying on Facebook, these racist, awful things. They put that person up as a Green Party candidate. It was a manipulation of democracy, and thankfully, because of the pressure from the community, that person dropped out.
And you cannot primary or try to force a primary against no one, so that's over from your perspective.
Well, I respect the Green Party's bylaws, and they do not do that. They talked to me, and they were very supportive of me when Chris Collins tried to pull this stunt. But since then, I've told them, listen, I respect your bylaws, and I will not do that.
Okay. So, Mr. McMurray, thank you very much. Perhaps things will quiet down in your district, perhaps not. Either way, we will continue to cover it. I thank you for your time.
And thank you for taking me on. I appreciate it.